Now, 3 rehab centers in Accra on Wednesday took delivery of luxury furniture and other fittings. The ones belonged to jailed drug baroness Nayele Amethepe. The items were taken over by the state after she was jailed in the UK for trafficking cocaine worth $5 million in their hand luggage. Joy News' Patricia Gasu was at the Narcotics Control Board where the items were displayed before being given out.
The luxury items made up of chandeliers, picture frames, furniture, light stands with bulbs and some electrical equipment were presented to 3 rehab centers. The beneficiaries are Daferic, House of St. Francis and Addictive Disease Unit at the Kolebu Teaching Hospital. The items, according to the Deputy Executive Secretary of the Narcotics Control Board, Michael Addo, is intended to enhance the work of the beneficiary rehab centers.
These are things that have been seized from drug barons or drug offenders. And what we do is that if you are arrested on drug offenses, you are not allowed to enjoy the proceeds of the drug trade. So we picked these items from a drug baron, and what we want to do is to present it to a rehab center, in fact 3 rehab centers. What the rehab centers are doing is that the drugs that they trafficked, the drugs that they dealt in, which has gone onto the public and they have consumed and are addicted to the drugs, we need to rehabilitate them. And in rehabilitating them, they need support. At the moment, the government doesn't have a rehab center. The very few ones that we are having around are private rehabilitation centers. And the Narcotics Control Board tries as much as possible to assist them. We send counselors there to give them counseling so that we can bring back these people into the society. We are making this presentation, telling the whole world that if you involve yourself in drugs and you are arrested, you will not live to enjoy the proceeds of the crime that you've committed. We will have to seize them. We have been seizing houses, we have been seizing vehicles, and these are furniture that we think will go a long way to help the rehab centers.
Head of the Addictive Disease Unit of the Kolebu Teaching Hospital, Logosu Amegashi, requested for more support since most of their furniture is worn out.
We need the furniture for group counseling. We need furniture. The ones that we have are old, they are dirty, they need to be replaced. We would have loved more. We'll be looking forward for computers and the rest. That will make our work a bit more easier. But the furniture is good because we are going to use new things, and then it helps in group counseling and one-on-one counseling if you have some of the chairs, so it is good.
Okay, but these ones look very fashionable.
Yes, we are fashionable people. And don't forget that the best of brains that God has created are the people with addiction. Okay. They have intelligence higher than every normal person. But unfortunately, the intelligence is used the wrong way, and that's what we're getting them back to use. We are not dealing with only people who are not professionals, because we have pastors, we have doctors, we have lawyers, we have pharmacists, we have soldiers, we have police, very renowned people who are afflicted with the disease of addiction. Okay. So the perception out there that it's a disease of a lower strata of society is false. It is not true at all. So yes, they may have suffered some psychological, also psychosocial deterioration because of the drugs, but they are qualified professionals who are afflicted with the disease of addiction.
Meanwhile, some seized narcotic drugs belonging to convicted drug dealers will on Thursday be destroyed by the Narcotics Control Board.
Now joining us, meanwhile, NACOB is still chasing after several other properties of Nayele Amethepe. The assets include millions of cedis held in at least 8 bank accounts and others that are still being investigated. East Legon residents has however been contested after a mother who is living in that property claimed ownership. A number of luxury vehicles she is known to have used were, however, found to have not been registered in her name, a practice said to be typical of persons who engage in illicit activities. Now, an auction firm which had vehicles on its premises forcibly taken over by the state on Wednesday is accusing government of unfairly targeting it. Government Asset Retrieval Task Force raided Jan Auctioneer's yard at Nsawam Uforikuma and took away 7 vehicles, including 5 SUVs it says belong to the state. One of the partners, Do Berger, is however challenged the seizure, insisting the company took possession of the vehicles on the orders of a court, and is optimistic government may eventually be obliged to return them. Journalist Daniel Dadzi joined the asset retrieval operation and reports. Right, we will bring you that story in a bit. We're taking a break here on Joy News Prime. Please stay tuned back. Right, so we're returning to our earlier story on the Narcotics Control Board, which has dismissed suggestions of conflicts of interest in the decision to allow its officials to auction and purchase property belonging to convicted drug dealers. Responding to questions on the propriety of the implementation of the recent court order to donate the confiscated assets of the drug queen, Nayela Methepe, to 3 Accra rehabilitation centers. The head of media relations at NACOB, Nanose Nkwantabisa, said a monitoring team has been set up to ensure beneficiaries of the assets are those intended by the court. He however admits some properties confiscated in the past are being used by NACOB, and its officials are permitted to purchase some of the properties when auctioned. He was speaking on the Pulse.
How have previous fixed assets been given out?
For what I have witnessed, yes, there have been some items that NACOB is currently using that were confiscated some years back.
So the NACOB, as in the office, is using those assets?
Yes, those assets, and it's being used for operational purposes. Auction do happen. Yeah, we do seize vehicles, and as I said, the process goes through the court. The court will give the order that auction these properties, maybe movable items like what we did today, and the cars. Yes, I know last year we did similar exercise where the public had opportunity to come and buy. Not officers took custody of all the cars. The public, it was. But
some of the officers took custody of some of the cars.
We bought them. We paid for them.
So NACOB seizes the vehicles, auctions them, and NACOB buys them. Is that okay?
No, not NACOB seizes and auctions them. The powers are given by the court.
The courts.
We place an advertisement in the dailies, the national dailies, for 21 days.
Isn't it a conflict of interest that you are seizing the vehicles and you're auctioning them and buying some? Is that correct? Is that okay?
You see, I wouldn't like to say anything of that sort, but that is the rule. That is the rule that the court has given the order. Yes, if first the opportunity is given to officers. If you have money, buy them.
Really?
And that is what.
Buy them for how much?
I don't have the figures in hand of head, but.
But is that okay? That sounds like conflict of interest.
No, that is not. To me, I don't see it as conflict of interest.
Now, the effects of hard drugs on users and the society can be devastating. Hundreds of thousands have died or become social liabilities rather than contribute to humanity. The narrative, however, appears to be gradually changing for the better with the introduction of treatment and rehabilitation programs. One such success story is told of a young woman now helping addicts to reform and live better lives in Kumasi. A report by Mahmoud Mohamed Nuruddin.
When I want to go to divinities now, because where I off to, I need other things which are going to help me build a stronger paradigm in my head, and I don't think I'll have time for these little issues. And
okay, for what I've been saying, marijuana comes as a hobby for what I've been taking for a while in the weekends. That was started from when I was SHS. So
started smoking marijuana at the SHS?
SHS, whereby at the SHS that I used to be celebrating marijuana for a weekend celebration, and that seems like they pretend that I've been a person that have been involved in addicting about that drugs.
Drug abuse in Ghana dates back into decades, despite its illegality and crackdown by the state. Over the years, security agencies have been on the lookout for drug peddlers and users. Many of those who get arrested and prosecuted are considered the small fishes, mostly the users, while the kingpins behind the illicit trade get away. A new scheme to rescue and rehabilitate substance abusers has been initiated. Police personnel in the Ashanti region, mainly drug fighters, have undergone training to prepare them on how to handle drug addicts.
Instance where he's an addict, but mentally not correct, and it's not all of us officers who are aware of it.
The good news, however, is that an individual has established a foundation specifically to cater for reforming addicts. Lydia Abina Menu's foundation has become home to about 100 addicts of marijuana. Seated here are people whose lives have changed for good. On a daily basis, recovering drugs addicts queue up here for their drugs. The brain behind the initiative decided to act following an encounter with a drug addict.
One day I met a mentally challenged person in town, and he asked me to give him money. So I spent a little time to interact with him, and I realized that he has a problem. That is why he was a drug addict. He has a problem in the house. So because of the problem, that is why he always go out to smoke. And as a result of the smoking, he got the psychosis.
Kwame Eduse and Efa David are here for treatment.
But when I live here, no, I will not bother myself. That's why I say I'll be advising those who have been taking for that smoke or alcohols. For living here, I see that it's not with the regardable regards for any whomever that it be outside or it be that be involving here.
Going back to school to get myself back on track.
Though they look tidy, they are carrying baggage of regret, a heavy one. Marijuana had made them slaves, and they continued smoking. They, however, stopped the very day they were brought here. For Lydia and her workers here, this is what they hope for each day. They want their patients to remain clean and also encourage others to join them at the rehabilitation center. This building can accommodate more addicts, but it has been abandoned due to lack of funds. Mahmoud Mohammed Nuruddin reporting.
The minority in Parliament has described as unacceptable government's decision not to increase the producer price of cocoa for the 2017 crop season. Addressing a news conference in Parliament, the ranking member on Finance, Cassiel Atuforsing, said reasons assigned for the non-payment, especially the drop in the world market price of the commodity, is unfounded, as provisions have been made in the Stabilization Fund to take care of such situations. The group is also unhappy with government's decision to disregard the Producer Price Review Committee in arriving at the decision not to increase the price for farmers.
The issue on the Stabilization Fund is important to clarify. The Stabilization Fund is not the same as the Petroleum Revenue Management Act Stabilization Fund. This is a Stabilization Fund established by Ghana Cocoa Board under President John Dramani Mahama in 2014. The President at the time directed Ghana Cocoa Board that he foresees certain times ahead that cocoa prices may come down. And if care is not taken, prices at the world market may come down to the extent that the cocoa farmer may be worse off. In doing so, it is important for us to save as a country for bad days ahead. Like any household, we save for the future. So Ghana Cocoa Board decided to set aside $150 million first in 2014. And then in 2015 we topped up. That money is for the purposes of investment. So what we are saying is that Ghana Cocoa Board should come out to tell Ghanaians how much is in the Stabilization Fund. And if they are to apply the Stabilization Fund, because that is what it was set for, what will be the mitigation effect on the ordinary Ghanaian? Because we need to know. And I can assure you, the next cocoa price, Producer Price Review Committee, when they come out and announce the cocoa price, we will screen the lines line by line and make sure that Ghanaians are getting the right price. We will monitor it. We will make sure what they've said is right and the Ghanaian farmer is not cheated.
The minority group has also been criticizing government's policy on supply of fertilizers to farmers. Ranking member on the Food and Agriculture Committee, Eric Opoku, says the current arrangement will leave farmers impoverished and also result in lower yields.
Surprisingly, the MPP government, on assumption of office, has replaced the free fertilization program with a program under which farmers pay 80 Ghana cedis for a bag of fertilizer. This is unacceptable. We cannot sit aloof for the government to cheat our cocoa farmers. Under the free fertilization program, the cocoa farmer was entitled to 7.5 bags of granular fertilizer or 2 liters of liquid fertilizer per every hectare of cocoa farm. So a farmer who has 100 hectares of cocoa farm was given 750 bags of fertilizer free of charge. Today, under President Akufo-Addo, Bawumia government, the same farmer is to pay 60,000 Ghana cedis for the same 750 bags of fertilizer. This has exposed the Ghanaian cocoa farmer to intolerable levels of penury. We want to emphasize that the cocoa farmers have indirectly, through the producer price determination formula used for the 2016-17 cocoa season, paid for the fertilizer. Selling the same fertilizer to the same farmer is a broad day robbery. We are therefore urging the MPP government to be sensitive to the plight of the Ghanaian cocoa farmer by halting the sale of the fertilizer and revert to the NDC's free fertilization program for the rest of the 2016-2017 cocoa season.
Well, the Ghana Cocoa Board has reacted or responded to the issues raised or the claims made by the minority at their news conference on the cocoa producer price. And Elton Brobe has joined me in the studio, and he has a copy of that statement. Hello, Elton.
Yes,
so, can you take us through what the reaction we're getting from the Ghana Cocoa Board?
So, 3 issues they responded to: the producer price, the fertilizer, and the way forward for Ghana Cocoa Board. Now, as far as the producer price is concerned, what they are saying is that at the current per ton of 7,600 Ghana, they have no intention of reviewing it downwards, even though the world price for cocoa has, come down from $3,122 per ton in June 2016 to the current $1,900 per ton in June 2017. Now, the minority's argument is that if the world market price has come down to this level and you have no intention of increasing the producer price, because you don't have money, there's a stabilization fund that was set up in 2014 to take care of this shortfall. And according to them, as at the time they left office, they had put into the fund almost over 300 million United States dollars. So government has no excuse to say that they cannot increase it. Now the Cocoa Board statement is saying that the stabilization fund was set up not to increase producer price, but to stabilize the current price. So at $7,600, 7,600 Ghana cedis per ton, they have no intention of reviewing it. Even though the world market has come down, they will maintain it. And they will not fall on the stabilization fund to use the fund to increase the producer price, but to stabilize it. Right. So that is their statement on the producer price. Now, on the fertilizer supply, in 2014, the NDC government introduced this free fertilizer supply to cocoa farmers across the country. Now, the Cocoa Board statement is saying that even though the initiative was laudable, it resulted in a situation where at most time the fertilizer was not available for the farmers to even use. And it led to the situation where people smuggled it out of the country because it was free. Now, to address this particular issue, what they've done is to reduce the price by 50%. So farmers can buy and it's always available. And farmers themselves are happy with the new initiative because the fertilizer is always available.
Now they have the fertilizer.
Even though they are paying 80 Ghana cedis per bag. The argument from the minority is that there's a component of an export levy. Now, when they are paying back the farmers their bonuses, one is done in cash, one is done in kind. The farmers themselves have already paid for the fertilizer by the virtue of the fact that they produce. So if you are asking them to pay 80% per bag, you are charging them double. But from the cocoa board statement, farmers are happy with how much they are paying for the fertilizer, so there's no issue. And they are hoping that all the interventions that they want to employ to ensure that they hit the 1 million tons by the end of the crop season, they are on course and they will deal with it.
All right, thank you very much, Elton Brobe, with the reaction from Cocoa Board to the issues raised by the minority in Parliament. In other news, the former Shraj Commissioner has joined calls for a scaling down of the President's powers in the appointment of public officers. At a forum organized by the Institute of Economic Affairs on winner-takes-all politics in Ghana, Justice Emil Short cited the appointment of the IGP, he says, does not promote democracy. He has charged government to revive the constitutional amendment process, which has been halted, emphasizing the need for broader discussion on some aspects. Matilda Wemega has more.
Over the years, the appointment of the Inspector General of Police has been done by the President, but former Shraj Commissioner Emil Short believes it does not promote democracy and prevents the IGPs from being objective, especially on politically related crimes.
I think there are a lot of issues which the Constitution will have to look at. The mere fact that there is something in the Constitution doesn't mean it's sacrosanct. We must question the Constitution and to find out whether some of the provisions that are there ought to be changed. For example, should we continue to have the President appointing the IGP? That is a very problematic issue because you find that the IGP and the police are not able to deal with political, for example, when it comes to demonstrations or activities of political parties, it seems to many people that the police are not able to act in an objective manner because being the IGP, it really doesn't promote our democracy. Why should the President have a hand in appointing the IGP? What has that got to do with running the government? Why the President should not appoint his ministers, his or her ministers, and leave other institutions to participate in the appointment of IGP as well as Chief Justice and so on. Why should the President be interested in who should be Chief Justice?
Public universities across the country do not have governing council, which serves as the highest decision-making body of universities. This is because the President is yet to make such appointments. In a presentation, a research fellow at the Institute of Economic Affairs, Professor Ransford Jampo, says the delay is affecting academia.
The President was elected to govern a country. The President has a mandate and a promise to fulfill to Ghanaians. I know in doing so you need people around you, but it cannot be part of good governance for a president to spend all his time thinking about people to appoint. It stalls work progress of very crucial institutions of state. And I'm very passionate about this because I'm a teacher at the University of Ghana. Currently, all public universities do not have councils. And so how do you run universities? Simply because power has changed hands.
Meanwhile, Information Minister Mustafa Hamid has been responding to the concerns raised, suggesting that the President's hands are tied by the Constitution.
The constitutional arrangements that we are operating states that a President must appoint the majority of ministers from Parliament. Now that Parliament is composed on the basis of partisanship, premised on an active participation on the people in Parliament on political platforms. So it is partisanship and their participation on political platforms that has brought them to the Parliament. And then you further say that the President should appoint the majority of his ministers from Parliament. So straight away, the President has no choice but to appoint ministers on the basis of partisanship. And so the President's hands are always tied in that matter.
The speakers were addressing a forum organized by the Institute of Economic Affairs, IEA, on the winner-takes-all politics in Ghana, making a case for a review of appointment powers of the president.
You're watching Joy News Prime. We're taking a break, but still to come in the bulletin, we have fresh information on the notorious Nigerian kidnapper said to have property and family in Ghana. Now, Joy News is learning he used the name Asari Nelson in his Ghanaian passport. We are also aware that the wife had a Ghanaian passport and the 2 children also had a Ghanaian passport. We have photographs of his house at Spintex Road and claims by the wife that she never knew that the husband was engaged in such a trade. Also in the bulletin, Government Assets Refuel Task Force raid a company's premises to retrieve vehicles it says belongs to the state, but the company is challenging the claim. We have all that and more coming up right after we're done with business. Stay tuned.
Hello, good evening. Thank you very much for joining me on Business. Lawyers for Dominion Corporate Trustees say they would be seeking a review of a ruling stopping NIB from paying $120 million in judgment debt to them. This follows the ruling by the Supreme Court today overturning an earlier judgment by the Appeals Court that the National Investment Bank should pay a judgment debt totaling $120 million to the firm. According to the Supreme Court, the ruling was based on the inability Dominion Corporate Trustees to identify those investors that lent the money to Enland International around 2007, which was guaranteed by NIB. Meanwhile, a lawyer for NIB insists the case is over and the bank would go ahead to fully carry out its operations. Robertson Akpache is head of legal for NIB.
The plaintiffs had brought a case against the bank for an amount of $60 million US, which they said the bank guaranteed. Now, that guarantee was issued by our former managing director. Okay, and then we lost the case at the High Court. We appealed to the Court of Appeal. The Court of Appeal affirmed the decision of the High Court. But we were always confident that, this is not a case that the bank was liable. And therefore, we appealed to the Supreme Court, and we've been vindicated. It was very key. So, it was really a technical knockout. The court did not go into the merits of the case, but we raised a preliminary objection to the fact that the writ that they brought to court was not proper according to the rules of court. The court said that the writ that was issued at the High Court was a nullity, was void, and therefore all consequential, things that followed were also void. And so the High Court judgment has been set aside. The Court of Appeal judgment has also been set aside. Yes, we just want to thank them for being with us. This case has really put a stress on the bank, because people were not sure as to where we were going. But now that this matter is over, the bank is poised to go forward. We are inviting all our customers to be confident, to have confidence in the bank, and they should do business with the bank.
Now, the Ghana Union of Traders Association, GUTA, has criticized the move by government to review the country's laws to open up the retail market for all eligible foreign retailers to sell their goods and services. CEO of the Ghana Investment Promotion Center, GIPC, Yofi Grant, had argued that an expansion of the local retail market in Ghana will not only facilitate free trade between ECOWAS states, but also make the Ghana private sector much competitive. But speaking to Joy Business, Director of Protocol at GUTA, Richard Amamu, revealed the aim of the free trade remains displaced if government fails to tackle the influx of locals on the foreign markets.
No one is saying that Ghanaians are afraid of competition. But in every country, there is protectionism sort of in trading. Even the whole almighty USA. When you look at the charts that we have on Trade Alert, when you look at it, you see that USA is leading in the protectionism measures, followed by India, and then China and the rest. You see, so if those people are even initiating have this protection measures in protecting their businesses. What about Ghana? Ghana is now coming. We don't even have, how many factories do we have in Ghana? And when you see that we need we need incentives. What kind of incentives? Let's interrogate the incentives that he's talking about.
So you're saying that you have an issue with what the JIPC boss is saying?
Certainly so. We met him on the 7th of June, and he was saying that he was being misquoted. And I, for instance, asked him, then he should go on air and then maybe send a rejoinder, sort of, that what he said, he has been misquoted. But as we speak, I have not heard anything of that sort, because we went there to interrogate the kind of incentives that he's talking about, and then the protectionism that we all know when with regards to trade. So if you are saying that Ghanaians need incentives, what kind of incentives are you bringing on board? We don't have a situation whereby whatever happens in Nigeria is happening here. It is now that they are trying to do something of that sort by the introduction of the CET, the common external tariffs issues. We are seeing it in that direction.
Richard Amamu is also calling on all foreign retailers to make sure they abide by the retail laws of Ghana in order to prevent possible confrontations with their local counterparts.
We are calling for the implementation of the law, because the law now, we have penalties and offenses. When you look at the 846, clause 40, G thereabout, it talks about what will be meted out to landlords who rent their shops to foreigners. Do you understand me? So the laws are there. Let's implement it, and we'll see that those things will be a thing of the past.
You have spoken about engaging with government. You've talking about the fact of raising advocacy in this very situation. Aside this, are there specific ways by which local business retailers here in Ghana are, drawing the attention of governments to make them understand that, hey, this is our land, and of course, we have the right to operate?
For us, we believe in multifaceted approach, and we believe strongly that all our members, our sub-regional executives are doing their best. They are engaging their regional ministers. We at the national are also trying to engage with the power that be. And we did that with Mr. Yofi Grant for, being our when we talk about investment, and he's the chief executive. And for that matter, when there is something of that sort, we have to sit with him. So we've done that. We've met with Honorable Alan Chiramatin, Trade Minister. We met with him, and he's also trying to do something of that sort. But
are you confident that your situation is going to be addressed once and for all?
For now, we are in the 5th month in this thing. But 5 months, and your capital is eroding. Do you understand me? There is no time.
Away from that, Energy Minister Boakye Jakon is assuring victory for Ghana in the ITLOS ruling between Ghana and Côte d'Ivoire. According to him, Ghana's legal team has done a great job so far in defending its case during the hearing. Ghana and Côte d'Ivoire are having a boundary dispute at the International Tribunal of the Law of the Sea, ITLOS, over some portions of the Trinidad and Tome field and other offshore fields. Speaking at the 10th anniversary of oil discovery at a forum in Ghana, Boakye Jakon assured potential investors to have confidence and explore more of Ghana's offshore industry.
I am happy to inform this august audience that the Petroleum Commission has made tremendous strides in the implementation of the local content policy and local content regulation. The government, with your support, will continue to implement policies that will ensure that this growth is sustained and increased to much higher levels. Mr. Chairman, there are, however, some challenges that as stakeholders we must overcome through concerted efforts. Indigenous Ghanaian companies and professionals face capacity challenges. The cost and access to capital, which basically erodes significant components of benefits provided for in the regulations to indigenous Ghanaian companies. I know that the Petroleum Commission is not oblivious of these challenges and are working tirelessly with all stakeholders to overcome these challenges. Ladies and gentlemen, the growth of Ghana's petroleum industry has not been without challenges.
There is currently a maritime boundary dispute between Ghana and La Côte d'Ivoire, with a final judgment by ITLOS expected by September 2017. The Ghana legal and technical teams have put in their very best efforts. Consequently, we are very hopeful of securing a favorable decision.
And meanwhile, General Manager of International Oil Company Hess Exploration Ghana, Frank McKay, says he's also confident Ghana will be victorious to make way for onward development of its oil block, which falls under the disputed boundary. Frank McKay said the company has been affected heavily since the case went to the International Tribunal.
We are affected. Our major field is within the disputed area. So we're hoping that will go in Ghana's favor and should have a ruling on that in September.
Okay. So are you, what gives you confidence that the case will go in favor of Ghana?
There's 40 years of history behind it. The Ghanaian team made a very good case. I attended the hearings in Hamburg. I came away very confident that Ghana is going to win the case, but, you know, I'm just an observer.
On that note, we draw the curtains down tonight's business. My name is Emmanuel Boachi. Many thanks for watching. Good evening.
Now, an auction firm which had vehicles on its premises forcibly taken over by the state on Wednesday is accusing government of unfairly targeting it. Government's Asset Retrieval Task Force raided Gyan Auctioneer's Yard at Nsawam, Oforikuma, and took away 7 vehicles, including 5 SUVs it says belonged to the state. One of the partners, Do Bega, is however challenging the seizure, insisting the company took possession of the vehicles on the orders of a court and is optimistic government may eventually be obliged to return them. Journalist Daniel Datsi joined the asset retrieval operation and reports.
Activities of the Asset Retrieval Task Force has been on the low-key after incidents involving top officials of the former government and the opposition party in some car seizure activities. The team, however, gave the indication it is still working hard at retrieving vehicles and other assets belonging to the state, which are with private individuals. On Wednesday, the operation began with a single objective: to retrieve 7 state-owned vehicles which are now in the possession of an auctioneer at Nsawam Oforikuma in the eastern region. The vehicles were 2 Ford Explorers, 2 Toyota Land Cruisers, 1 BMW saloon car, 1 Mitsubishi Pajero, and 1 Nissan Sentra. As early as 8 a.m., the team arrived at the auctioneer's garage, where they found more than 30 vehicles parked. The team immediately identified 6 out of the 7 vehicles and questioned the caretaker of the yard, William Barr, who expressed displeasure at the action of the task force, saying his outfit was being unfairly targeted. He explained the vehicles were being held in the yard on behalf of various courts in Accra. Member of the task force, Akwesia Bebrese, told journalists the team will reverse to their superiors with the information gathered and await further instructions.
We had information that there's a government vehicle at Nsawam, and we see SPD government vehicle, we see Land Cruisers, many cars, and we confronted the man. What he's saying is the car is a 6 cars from court, and he did not mention the court name. We wanted to know. He said no, he will not mention the court name. As I'm talking, we cannot judge it here. It's only the big mess at the up who can judge. Our own is just pick the information and send the signal to Ghana government. So we have finished.
So what's next after this?
The next after this, if you need any information again, after we contact our big mess, what they said, and then you move on. We will let you know, then we'll continue from there.
But speaking on the Pulse Wednesday afternoon, joint partner with the auction house Giant Auctioneers Do Abega said this is not the first time cars in his yard have been targeted.
Those vehicles are caught impounded vehicles.
Okay.
When I say caught impounded vehicles, I mean they are vehicles realized through what we call FIFA or fairy fishes. It is a judgment debt. For instance, someone goes to the bank to access a facility, and the person faults in payment. The plaintiff bank resorts to the court, and when judgment is given, a white docket is open, and then we, the auctioneers, go into execution. When you go into execution, we attach both movable and immovable assets of the defendants in question. So this is how come we came by those vehicles and parked in our garage.
But Joy News has obtained fresh evidence on the notorious Nigerian kidnapper said to have amassed millions of dollars abducting people and exchanging them for ransom. The Inspector General of Police in Nigeria told the Sub-Regional Security in Accra on Tuesday, Chukwu Didu Meme Nuama DK alias Evans actually held a Ghanaian passport and had acquired property in Ghana and had his family living here in Accra. Well, Joy News has obtained a copy of the details page of his passport, identifying him as Sarah Nelson. His wife and 2 children, according to other documents with Joy News, also had Ghanaian passports. Maxwell Agwagwa has cited the documents and joins me in the studio with more on this. Maxwell, we now know, Ketsi, the documents you have cited, that not only did Evans, the kidnapper, have a Ghanaian passport, his wife and family all had Ghanaian passports, so essentially making them bona fide Ghanaians. Tell us more about it.
Well, Israel, it's very interesting. I have with me here in front of me right now the photocopy of the Nigerian passport.
Page. Okay.
Exactly, the Nigerian passport belonging to the wife, and it bears the name Onwama Dike Uchenna Precious. Nationality Nigerian, date of birth 27th November 1985, and was issued at the Abuja passport headquarters. Now, interestingly, if you flip to this page, it's a photocopy of a Ghanaian passport, and it bears the name Asari Precious. And nationality here has changed from Nigerian to Ghanaian, and was issued here in Accra. Another interesting part of this passport acquisition for the notorious kidnapper, his family, is that for all his 3 children, all his 3 children have their passports bearing his original last name, which is Onwama Dike. But for his other 2 children, their passports do not bear these last name, the last name that we're talking about, but they actually bear his fraudulently acquired Ghanaian last name, which is Asari. We want to protect the identity of these children, so we'll not put out their names, but one is a male, and then the other is actually a female, all bearing their last names Asari, and these are Ghanaian passports issued to 2 children and then his wife.
Okay, so we also have information about his properties here in Ghana. What are these? Where are these properties, and what sort of buildings are we talking about?
Well, it's a duplex. It's a 1-story building, very plush building, gated, wall fence. In fact, right in front of it is a vehicle parked in front of it, and we are told that this is the building that the family occupies here in Accra, specifically at Spinters Road, and that's the information that we're getting from the hierarchy of the police. In fact, they tell us that they're having discussions with the hierarchy of the police here in Ghana to see how best, if it will be possible, to even go to the extent of confiscating the property that we're talking about, because they believe that it was illegally acquired with illegal the money received from the ransoms.
All right. So we're also learning that the wife is saying that she had no idea the kind of business the husband was engaged in to finance their affluent lifestyle. What business is she saying she knew the husband to be doing?
Well, she's been speaking to the Nigerian press, and in fact, she actually called one newsroom and then demanded that she wanted to speak to one of the editors. And then there she started talking, they had to record it and then later transcribe whatever that she said in that conversation. There she revealed that her husband actually told her that he's into container business. So usually they'll be there and then she will just, he would tell her that he's going to the port, his container has just arrived, he's going to take it, and all those kind of things. And that they were previously living in Nigeria, but she had to move here to Ghana. They had, upon the advice of the husband, she had to move to Ghana here, to pursue quality education for their children. So that was the reason why they actually moved to Ghana. But when they moved to Ghana, she has been staying here in Ghana, and the husband has actually been in Nigeria doing the kidnapping business. So she's saying all these things happen on her blind side, and she does not have any idea whatsoever about the business that her husband was into.
All right, and apparently he's been involved in quite a number of high-profile kidnappings and abductions, which appear to have earned him quite a bit of money.
That's true. Huge sums of money. In fact, a total of that, it's $8.4 million US. In fact, if you look at the period between...
So $8.4 million for how many cases or abductions?
Okay. So this is a combination. It's a tally that we did for the Naira that he received and then the US dollars that he received. So let me just give you what he obtained between the period of 2015 and 2016. Just 2015 and 2016, he had...
In just 1 year?
Just 1 year. $6.2 million US. And in this document that we got from a top hierarchy within the Nigerian police, it actually listed all
a number of
the cases, and it's actually
all 20 of them,
exactly,
which come to the $8.4 million you're talking about. All right, thank you very much, Maxwell. We'll have to leave it here. But the Nigerian IGP Ibrahim Potun Idris says that police is seeking further collaboration with his Ghanaian counterpart to learn more about Evans the kidnappers' operations in Ghana.
This is a man that, spread across this West African sub-region, having houses in Ghana, leaving his family in Ghana while he's in Nigeria organizing and kidnapping people. This is a man that obviously tends to take kidnapping beyond the shores of Nigeria. And I think, and that's why I use this opportunity of us being here today to sort of collaborate closely with the Ghanaian police to see how the footprint of this man in Ghana will be liquidated.
Were you able to engage in a conversation with the Ghana IGP yesterday on the issue?
Obviously, that has been the issue of what we've been discussing throughout yesterday. And I have requested from my country, from my police force there, and they've sent me some documents which I'm going to share with him today, to show the locations of the houses he has in Ghana, and even some copies of the passports. These are issues, these are things we obtained in the course of our investigation in Nigeria.
Are you able to tell us the locations of these houses and what kind of houses are they?
Obviously, like I've just shown some of your colleagues, I'm sure it's there, you can see. The houses are located, even the address of the houses are in that document I just showed now. You can see it. The houses are located in Accra here. Two very big duplexes, which he has in Accra. Yes.
Has the passport agency here in Ghana been able to tell you how Evans was able to acquire Ghanaian passport?
From what I saw, he uses a Ghanaian name. He used a Ghanaian name in the course of obtaining that passport. But you can see his picture on that passport, which means it was an illegal, he obtained it through illegal process. And I believe that the Ghanaian police and other government agencies will look into those issues to see how they can block the accusation of, the accusation in obtaining the Ghanaian passport through some of these dubious means.
Watching Joy News Prime. Still in the bulletin, the police have declared wanted 8 more persons believed to be connected with the murder of late Major Adam Mahama. Now, the police have declared wanted 8 more persons believed to be connected with the murder of late Major Adam Mahama. It's been released on the Ghana Police Service's Twitter handle, named Yao Mankwa, Kwejo Fojo, Kwabna, Kenkeba, Tikwa, Yabuedu, Madam Dediko, Erica Sante, and Kofi Ahinkra. Meanwhile, the state says it is now ready to begin the prosecution of 32 of the nearly 60 suspects already arrested in connection with the lynching of the soldier at Boase in the central region on May 29 this year. The suspects who appeared before a district court in Accra on Wednesday were first discharged and then rearrested. Joining us is Joseph Akable has more.
So at about 10 a.m. on Wednesday, the two vehicles carrying the accused persons could be seen at the court premises, the Accra District Court here. Now, a total of 58 persons were brought into the courtroom at the initial hearing of the case. Some 34 persons were charged, but when the case was called on Wednesday, DSP George Amega, who is leading prosecution for the state, informed the court that they wanted to consolidate all three charge sheets into one charge sheet with some 32 persons are being charged by the police. They are clear in their minds that they want to charge them with conspiracy to commit murder and murder. The other 26 persons, they asked that they be discharged and were immediately rearrested by officers of the Ghana Police Service. The understanding the police service is putting across is that they are still conducting some investigations with regards to the 26 persons, for which reason they want to still keep them in custody. And when then the case is next called, if they have enough evidence to put against them, they will also be charged as well. One gentleman among the 32, we are being told, is less than the age of 18. It was a concern raised by the judge, and the police explained that they had information that suggested that he was indeed more than 18 years of age, but the judge pointed out that if that information is not tendered into the court as evidence, that nothing shows that indeed he is less than or more than 18 as is being told. So he ordered that that gentleman be taken to a bus pending evidence supplied by the police to indicate that he is indeed more than 18 years of age for him to be kept in police custody. As expected, this is a case that has generated so much public attention, and quite a lot of people made it to the courtroom, and they could simply not hide their interest. Another interesting thing is the fact that for the many who were brought into the courtroom, they had to be identified one after the other. Their names were mentioned with the corresponding numbers for them to make their way into the courtroom. But with regards to the substantive matter itself, a hearing is expected to continue on July 6, where we'll have an indication of whether more people will be charged in addition to the 32, or the police will stick to the 32 they have put before the court so far. Reporting for Joy News, Joseph Akable, Accra District Court.
You can get to read more about this story when you go to myjoyonline.com. We actually have images of the people, the suspects who are currently in custody, and you can see some of them looking quite grim, clearly faces of regret. In other news, Group Chairman of ROG Communications, Roland Agambre, has been declared wanted by the Ghana Revenue Authority for defaulting in tax obligations to the tune of 14 million Ghana cedis by a subsidiary company ACI Construction Limited. Joy News' Favor Nuno visited the Kaneshi Dance Bar office to confirm whether the office is operational.
The RLG CEO, Roland Agambre, has been declared wanted by the Ghana Revenue Authority, and that is because one of his subsidiary companies, which is ACI Construction Limited, is said to be owing taxes to the tune of some 14 million Ghana cedis. And following from this, the GRA has actually moved to lock one of his offices, putting it under lock and key. So Joy News will have come here to the Osu offices that we're very aware or familiar of as being the operation point of the RLG group. But what we realize is it looks like the place is not in operation at all. There are no decks, furnitures whatsoever. But an interesting point to note is up there you'd find a flexi banner that says RLG relocated. So
yeah, actually I don't know the issue about this place, but they just all of a sudden just start sacking up one or two workers, and they just broke down. I don't know why. Okay. The last 2 months we see that this has been changing. Okay. It's not like fish. Yeah, people normally used to come to buy things. Yeah, we see that. Actually, I know that they've moved from here to the State House. But
there in Osu, the very office that's known to be the head offices of the RLG group, happens to not be in operation. They've actually moved from there, and so we were there earlier, and then indeed residents did mention that they have moved away, but not sure where exactly the location is. We're here at the Kaneshi Dance Bar area, and right behind me is a building that you see. It's a two-story building with a tile all over it and glass entrances. You'd realize behind me that this is a glass entrance, and it looks like it has been locked with some padlock and then chains. Basically, this is the RLG offices. It's a new one that is here at the dance bar area in Kaneshi. And if you can get close and see, you'd realize that, well, that's the entrance, and this a padlock that holds it with chains. And this follows from the Ghana Revenue Authority's claim that indeed Roland Agambiri's subsidiary company, ACI Construction Limited, actually owes the Revenue Authority to the tune of 14 million Ghana cedis. And following from that, they've actually placed one of his assets under lock and key, hoping that in 14 days he's able to actually pay back this money. Let's go ahead. I can see that there's another door that actually leads to this two-story building. Yes, indeed, you can tell from here, that's another entrance. This entrance is also under lock and key. It's a glass door that's been barricaded with a...
Well, Favor Nunu with that report. The Volta Regional Minister, Dr. Archibald Lecher, has warned officials of the National Health Insurance Scheme to put aside their political affiliations and support the new leadership of the NHIS in its quest to revive the scheme. He emphasized that officials who would be identified as obstruction to the realization of the Kufuor-led government's objective of reviving the NHIS will be replaced with committed personnel to enable government deliver the change it promised Ghanaians. Dr. Lecher said this in the at the Volta Region National Health Insurance Scheme mid-year review program in the Capital Hall.
The Volta Regional Minister, Dr. Archibald Lecher, expressed displeasure at how some officials of the NHIS in the Volta region exhibited unprofessionalism in the discharge of their duties by prioritizing political gains over the health of the citizenry. He therefore advised all officials to be committed to their duties and cooperate with stakeholders to resolve the numerous challenges bedeviling the scheme.
Some of the staff of this organization have performed unprofessionally. They are so political that we are not concerned about the health of the people, but we're just concerned about political vendetta. I want us to be professional. I'm a doctor, I'm MPP, but I try to be as professional as possible. I'm regional minister. I'm regional minister for everybody. I open my doors for everybody. So those of you who are political activists, put off your political cloak and come on board for us, because there are too many challenges with the scheme. And all of us have to work together to make sure that what we promise the people of Ghana, we deliver.
Dr. Lecher indicated that the improvement of the NHIS is very important to the government and assured that the new patriotic party, which established the scheme, has the ability to revive it.
The new patriotic party that began the health insurance scheme is back to power. And we started it, we know how to carry it forward. And we promise the people of Ghana that we'll do it. If you want to be part of us, fine. But there are many people out there who want to be part of this agenda. So that if you are occupying the position, but you'll be an obstruction, I'm here with a kind advice. Jump off before you are pushed off. So I want all of you to cooperate with the new leadership of this organization.
The acting Volta Regional Director of the NHIS, Joseph Omenya, disclosed that the scheme recently paid service providers in the region about 3,420,000 Ghana cedis for the months of May, June, July and August 2016. He stated that his outfit aims to witness a 15% growth in membership by close of 2017 and enroll 80% of the total population of the Volta region onto the scheme by 2020.
I wish to report that 2 weeks ago, the scheme was able to release 3,419,914 cedis 19 pesos as payment to our providers in the region covering the months of May, June, July, and August of 2016 for most of our providers. It is my vision that the scheme achieve 80% enrollment of the total population of the Volta region onto the NHIS to access quality healthcare in the next 4 years. We are in a new era, hence the need for new working spirits to achieve these targets.
Fred Kwame Asari's report for Joy News.
In the northern region has begun investigations into allegations of the use of expired drugs at the Tamale Teaching Hospital after it found large quantities there. It follows media reports about the use of expired drugs in the hospital theatres, prompting a strike by anesthetists. Northern Region Director of the Food and Drugs Authority, Martin Kusi, at a training program in Tamale, said arrangements are being made to safely dispose of the drugs, explaining the FDA delayed in its audits because of the processes involved.
We went in to investigate. Now we have lots of medicines expired at the Tamale Teaching Hospital, which we have arranged to go and then dispose of safely. For now, we have not finished taking the inventory. We are on it. I hope by the end of the month we will be able to finish with the inventory, and then we'll proceed from there to go and then have a safe disposal of the medicines which have expired at the Tamale Teaching Hospital. In every setting, there are a lot of administrative procedures that one has to go through before being allowed to take, an action or an activity. And this was some of the things that we had to just endure. We couldn't just go straight forward to the hospital and then to take inventory. So we had to write to them.
Well, thank you very much. That's the end of the bulletin for today. My name is Susrelai. Thank you very much for watching and have a good evening.
This is Joy News Prime.